Okay, great. All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience. It's great to see a turnout like this, and it's really nice to meet you all. It's for recording purposes, so there's no amplification that's going to occur, but I'll project as best I can. This is being recorded by a cable service, and I have Town Manager Lynn Simmons here running a Zoom as well. So it's really nice to see this kind of turnout. My name is Courtney. I work for Good Energy. Good Energy is the consultant hired by the town to develop this program, the Longmeadow Community Electricity Program. This is a town-run program, and it has been in the works for the last 2 years or so. So I'm very excited to present this to you tonight. Just so you know what to expect, I'm going to give about a 15 to 20 minute presentation. This will overview the structure of the program, and then we'll open to Q&A, questions and answers. That will take up the bulk of our time tonight. So with that, all right, so I figured we would start by talking about the purpose of this program. This is a municipal aggregation program. What that means is the town pulls together a collective buying power and selects an electricity supplier for the program. Through this program, Longmeadow Community Electricity, the only thing that changes is who supplies your electricity. The purpose of this program is very much about stable pricing over the contract term. This first contract for the program is for 15 months, so rates are locked in for 15 months. Savings cannot be guaranteed, and I'll expand more on this, but it's because Eversource changes their supply prices every 6 months, and those future 6-month periods are currently unknown. However, these programs historically have provided savings compared to the utility, compared to Eversource, over contract terms. And I think it would be prudent to note there are more than 200 municipal aggregation programs in the state. Longmeadow went through a competitive bidding process and chose Direct Energy as its electricity supplier. As a part of developing this program, Good Energy vetted only the most capable suppliers with very strong track records to manage the load of an entire town, such as the town of Longmeadow. Direct Energy was chosen as the electricity supplier and will offer all 3 supply options for the program. The program starts on your meter read in August 2025, and prices are again fixed for a 15-month period. I'm going to touch a little bit on your electricity bill. There are 2 parts to your electricity bill. The first is the delivery side, and the second is the supply side. If you participate, the only thing that changes is the supplier and the supply rate in that supply section. I have an example bill up here to show you guys what that looks like. As you can see highlighted here in red, for participants, your supplier will say Direct Energy - Town of Longmeadow. So that's there. This is usually on the second page of your Eversource bill. So again, look for the supply section, and next to supplier, you would see who your supplier is that way. And this is the only thing that changes on your electricity bill, that portion right there. Next, I am going to run through all of the things that stay the same. This actually covers a lot of our most common customer support questions that we get, but I want you guys to know that after this, we will get into program options as well as how participation works. So what stays the same? The delivery portion of your Eversource bill will remain the same. Eversource will continue to deliver your electricity to maintain the physical poles and wires, and in the case of any power or storm outages, Eversource would be the person that you still contact. Eversource is going to continue to deliver one bill, and you are going to continue to pay just that one bill from Eversource. Anyone using budget billing or receiving low income rate discounts will continue to receive their current benefits. Additionally, customers receiving net metering or other solar benefits, you also are going to receive your current benefits. Community solar and solar installation work seamlessly with this program. Our program options. Longmeadow Community Electricity offers 3 electricity products. One of these products is the community default, that is called Longmeadow Standard. And then there are 2 optional electricity products, the Longmeadow Basic and the Longmeadow Plus. All products begin on your August meter read and are stable until November 2026 meter reads. The default product adds 10% voluntary renewable energy on top of state standards. And I'm going to talk more about this in future slides. But if you're eligible for automatic enrollment and you do not take any action, you are going to be enrolled in this default product. It's the one outlined there in green. Our first optional electricity product is the Longmeadow Basic. This product is structured to mirror Eversource's basic service in that it does not add any additional renewable energy. It is the most cost-effective price at 13.07 cents per kilowatt hour. Our optional Longmeadow Plus product, on the flip side, adds renewable energy so that 100% of the electricity that you use comes from renewable sources. This product costs 14.388 cents for each kilowatt hour that you use. So as a quick review, we have these 3 options. The first one, Longmeadow Basic, is optional and is the base cost for electricity. It does not add any renewable energy, and it is the most economic option. Then we have one for people who really care about their environmental impact that adds more renewable energy to your supply, and the default that meets the interests of both through a competitive rate along with an additional 10% renewable energy on top of state standards. So you can see these options and their prices listed here on the screen. And I want to take a moment to touch base on Eversource's supply rate. Eversource's supply option is called Basic Service. You can see it on the far right column here. And Eversource supply rate, which is called Eversource Basic Service, that price changes every 6 months. So the next time that this rate is going to change is on August 1st, which is when this program launches. And then it's going to change again in February 2026 and again in August 2026 and so on. Because Eversource's basic service rate changes every 6 months, and we do not know what the future 6-month period rates are going to be. Eversource doesn't know either. We cannot guarantee any savings in a certain 6-month period. That being said, I mentioned when we kicked off that historically these programs see savings throughout the length of a contract term, so 15 months in this case. And what I can guarantee is that you know your rate for the next 15 months on this program. Okay, and I want to talk just a little bit more about these renewables. There is a standard for all electricity generation in the state of Massachusetts on how much of that generation has to come from renewable sources. This is called an RPS, or the Renewable Portfolio Standard for Massachusetts. Longmeadow's program adds even more to that, to the standard, to make your products a little greener. It adds 10% on top of these state standards. The Longmeadow Plus, as mentioned before, adds enough that 100% of the electricity you use comes from renewable sources. And these renewable sources come from our nonprofit partner, JICA, that is Green Energy Consumers Alliance. This is a map of their projects in New England where they get this renewable energy sourced from. It is mostly in the state of Massachusetts, but there's a few locations in surrounding New England states. And the great part of partnering with JICA is that we are buying Massachusetts Class 1 RECs, that's a certain kind of standard for renewables, and putting electricity back onto the New England grid. So these are local renewable generation that is, again, getting back on our grid. Okay. So now I'm going to take a moment to talk about participation in terms of how to participate or how not to participate. I do want to start off by saying no one has to participate in this program, and you can leave at any time. There are no penalty fees associated with this program. How you participate is different based on your current supplier, which I'm going to take a moment now to explain a little more. So I have another example of an Eversource bill here. This is how you find who your electricity supplier currently is. This is usually on page 2 of your bill in the supplier section. If you see anything other than Eversource listed next to supplier, that means you're on a third-party supply. If you see it say Eversource, you are on basic service. So, as a quick recap, to see who your current supplier is, you would go to your bill, you would look for the supplier section, and if it says anything other than Eversource, you are on third-party supply, and if it says Eversource, it means you're on basic service. So I'm going to take a few slides here to talk about participation for that basic service group. And I'm going to keep saying this just to remind you what group of people I'm talking about. If your bill said Eversource next to supplier, that means you are on basic service, and that therefore means you are eligible for automatic enrollment. You may have received a letter, and don't worry if you didn't get a letter. We can talk about enrollment for anybody who wants to participate, but this letter explained that because you are on Eversource basic service rate for your supply, you are eligible for automatic enrollment as of your August meter read. For this basic service group, if you do not take any action, you will be enrolled into that default electricity product. When we were looking at the table with the different electricity product options, that was the one in the middle, highlighted in green. That will again be starting your August meter read. I have a quick summary of options for this Eversource basic service group. The first thing is if you take no action, you will be automatically enrolled into that default product. The second thing that you can do is take action to choose one of those two optional products, the Longmeadow Basic or the Longmeadow Plus. The third thing you could do is take action and opt out of the program altogether. Okay, next slide in this section, I am still talking to those who say Eversource on their bill because your supply rate comes from Eversource basic service. The deadline to opt out before the program starts is July 19th. If you don't opt out before July 19th, you will be automatically enrolled into that default electricity product, but you can still always opt out of the program at any time. I've talked to residents and customers who have wanted to try it out for a few months and then decide if they wanted to opt out or not. So that is an option for you if you want. Again, there are no penalty fees associated with this program. I will get to a Q&A right after I finish this presentation. You just have to make the decision by July 19th before the program starts to never be enrolled at all. Okay, this is the last slide for that Eversource basic service group. We reviewed those three options that you have. The first was take no action, so you'll be automatically enrolled in the default product. But those other two options require action, and I have them outlined here on the screen for you. If you wish to choose a different electricity product available from the program, that is the Longmeadow Basic or the Longmeadow Plus, you can fill out a form online, or you can call the electricity supplier of the program. Again, they're called Direct Energy, and you can enroll with them over the phone. They hold all of the account information for program participants, so they have the ability to enroll you over the phone. To opt out of the Longmeadow program, you could take the same two options. There is a form online at the website, or you could call the electricity supplier of the program, Direct Energy. There is a third option to opt out. If you received a letter, there was a card that came with that letter, you could sign it and return it via post. As long as that is before July 19th, that is a third way to opt out of the program. I do have this information up on the screen. The website is longmeadowcommunityelectricity.com. Direct Energy, its phone number is listed here as well. And my final slide is going to have all of this contact information, so you'll be able to write it down or take a picture during Q&A as well. Okay, I am now switching groups, and I'm no longer talking to the basic service group. I am now talking to the group of people who on your electricity bill next to supplier, it says anything other than Eversource. That means that you are on a third-party supply, and you have already made a decision about your electricity supplier. Because you have already made a decision, and because some third-party suppliers have contracts that include penalty fees for early termination, we don't want to get in the middle of that in any way, and so you are not eligible for automatic enrollment. But you can take action to participate if you still want to participate. Any of you can enroll. Before doing so, I would just recommend you read through your third-party supply contract and honestly probably contact them to make sure you fully understand what kind of penalty fees might be associated with the contract you currently have. Then if you do want to enroll, I'm going to go back one slide. It is the same information as right here. There is a form online to enroll, or you could call the electricity supplier Direct Energy. Okay, so I have just a couple more points before opening to Q&A, and I just want to recap that municipal aggregation is a completely different type of program than individual contract with third-party suppliers. A lot of suppliers that we work with, they do have individual contracts with residents, and I'm going to go down the left portion, the left column of this slide, and read about them. Third-party contracts, individual residents cannot negotiate contract terms. Third-party contracts often have hidden fees, like the early termination penalties I'd mentioned, and third-party contracts often switch to variable pricing, and many customers do not notice. This would mean that the original price that you started on changes after a certain amount of time, and you might not realize. There is no independent expert to help monitor your contract. A benefit of this program is that the town of Longmeadow made it a top priority to negotiate terms that include consumer protections against these more predatory contracts. I am now going to go down the right column and read this out here. The program, well, the town of Longmeadow negotiated a contract focused on the best interests of their residents and businesses. The program has no hidden fees and no termination or cancellation penalties. The program is committed to transparency and will always have fixed pricing. So those prices will be locked in, and they will always be announced publicly before new rates take effect. Finally, the program's consultant, Good Energy, will conduct ongoing oversight on our supplier to ensure that they are fully compliant. One thing I like to note as well is if you've had any customer support experience with these more predatory third-party type of contracts, that is a different department in these suppliers than municipal aggregation programs. We work with the municipal aggregation department within the different suppliers that we vetted and have worked with. So finally, I want to touch on outreach real quick. The town of Longmeadow has been getting the word out about the Longmeadow Community Electricity Program. In addition to the notification letter that you might have received, we have spread the word through a press release, through social media. There are FAQs. I brought some FAQs in today, and there are brochures and a poster. So we are here tonight to answer any questions you may have, because you might have seen this outreach that the town has been issuing. And with that, it brings me to this slide. I'm going to be leaving this up here for now at least. It has all of the contact information you might need. It's got Direct Energy's phone number, the supplier's phone number, which is 866-968-8065. It has the website, longmeadowcommunityelectricity.com, and it also includes my number. This number down here, 413-238-1955. That is a phone number specifically for Longmeadow Community Electricity. I am on the other end of that number, as well as some of my colleagues, and we are experts in this area and are happy to answer any questions and assist you with anything you might need. I would also like to note that I am more than happy to stand back and kind of give out any contact information that might be needed after this as well. And with that being said, I think that we're ready to open to Q&A. The way I'm going to structure this is I'm going to ask questions for the people who are physically at the meeting first. Once we get through them, we will open questions to those who have virtually joined. And when you ask your question, we do ask that you come to this microphone up here so that your question can be recorded. Sir, I know that you had a question earlier.
If you opt out now, can you opt in later?
I'll repeat the question. He asked if you were to opt out now, could you opt back into the program later? That's a great and very common question that I get. The answer is yes. You can opt out of this program at any time. You can opt into this program at any time. Again, there are no penalty fees. The one thing I do want to note is that the supplier holds the right to offer you a market rate if you leave and then come back. However, we really truly only see them use this for large commercial accounts. We never see this used for residential accounts. Yes.
Yes, this Eversource rate 13.493. How certain is that?
Yes. Okay.
Is that certain?
For a 6-month period, yes. So starting on August 1st, Eversource's supply rate is going to change from the current rate to 13.493 cents for each kilowatt hour that you use. That will be for 6 months, and then they will procure again later, and a new price will happen in the next 6-month period. Yes, ma'am. If you want to, I could probably repeat your question here.
Try to speak loudly. I'm just wondering if we go to this new program, what if any new equipment might be needed? How big is it? Would it be installed? How does the physical aspect work?
Yeah, the physical aspect doesn't change in any way. It is all about how the New England grid purchases the electricity that it then gets to you. So there is no physical equipment change needed for this to occur. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I have solar power,
Yes.
and in the sunny months, I build up a credit that basically offsets my cost in January, December, February. Currently, I've got a credit of like $800. What happens to that in August if I choose to go with the new service?
Nothing changes. That credit that you've accrued will stay.
It stays? I don't lose it?
Yes, your net metering is going to occur the same exact way. The only thing that changes if you have solar installed is when you don't generate enough usage to cover all the electricity that you use. When you pull from the grid, you're just going to pull from the grid at the program supply rate rather than Eversource's. Everything else stays the exact same.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's say that we go along with the new plan. In a year and a half, the rates are guaranteed till a year and a half. What happens a year and a half, I think you said it was November, is the town going to go through another process of vetting different companies? Do we all stay with Direct Energy? Can you kind of address what goes on a year and a half from now?
Absolutely, yes. So approaching November 2026, the town of Longmeadow has the option to renew the program. We see the vast majority of municipal aggregations renew, and if that were the case, the same competitive bidding process would occur with suppliers. And the best option presented by, again, these very well-vetted suppliers that we have worked with dozens of times. That new rate will go into effect on that November 2026 meter read, and the same sort of process will occur where there's at least 30 days of an outreach period, and you will receive letters if you are a participant in the program that lets you know what those new rates will be and all of the options available to you. Yes.
Just one more question.
Yeah, of course.
If you decide to opt out of this program at any time, how hard is it to opt back into Eversource?
So when you opt out of this program, by default, you are going to be put back onto Eversource. If you then decide you want to shop around and do your own third-party individual contract, you would have to then do that after opting out. But I usually find that customers I speak to, when they opt out, they want to be on Eversource, and that automatically occurs through the opt-out process. Yes, ma'am.
So, I think it was the second slide, in the middle, it said adds 10% renewable energy, and the far right one said maybe adds 100%.
Yes, I'm going back to that slide.
So, if I'm not a person who wants to send my money towards windmill farms or building new windmill farms, it seems, plus it's kind of vague to me, adds 10%. I don't know what adds 10% means. That means they're gonna reduce down to 90% of what would be going on now and make sure that 10% of what they're sending to us comes from solar and wind. Are there other besides, what are all these renewables?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to talk about that. As like a summary of the question, we were asking a little bit about the 3 electricity products and what this 10%, 100% means when it comes to renewables, and a question about their sources. I'm going to go back to the Massachusetts state standards. So every year, Massachusetts has a minimum amount of renewable energy that's required for an account to use. And so in 2025, 63% of the electricity you use needs to come from renewable sources. Our Longmeadow Basic product, the one that has no additional renewable energy, that means that it is the same as Eversource. 63% of the electricity you use will come from renewable sources. The rest of it will not. When we say that the Longmeadow standard electricity product adds 10%, what that really means is 73% instead of 63 is the amount of energy you use that comes from renewable sources. Finally, for the Longmeadow Plus, 100% of the electricity you then use comes from renewable sources. Did that answer
Yeah, and like
your question?
breakdown, but they can choose, I mean, that's not for us to decide, right? They're gonna say, oh, well, this week this is cheaper, that's cheaper, we'll get more solar, we'll get less wind.
Yeah, let me show you this slide again as well, our voluntary renewables. So for that 63% that's required by the state, there are different types of renewable energy that's included in it. One of it is called a Mass Class 1 carve-out. Mass Class 1, MA Class 1, is just a term for renewables that have been in operation from 1997 on, so they're newer, and they are all local to New England. There are also some older renewables that are less efficient than these newer ones that are included in that 63%. And we see overarchingly, particularly in the Mass Class 1, that comes from solar, wind, some large hydro. And then when it comes to the voluntary renewables, so what you add, so either the 10% you add or what's added to make it 100%, that is exclusively MA Class 1 renewables. So that is the more efficient ones, and our nonprofit partner, JICA, they help us with the procurement of that for the program. Yes, sir. Would you mind coming to the mic? Thank you so much.
If, is there a way to turn this on?
It's just for recording.
If 3 Longmeadow residents have the 3 different plans,
Yes.
and they're using an Eversource supplier, how does one have 73 or 75 renewable and another one have 100%?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I get that question a lot, actually. In terms of the electricity that you get, that is a really in the weeds question. I'm happy to stay behind and ask and explain the specifics of that to anybody who wants. But overarchingly, your purchase does contribute to the New England grid becoming cleaner. Essentially, the renewable energy that's generated is tracked by something called renewable energy certificates, RECs for short. And I can guarantee that through this program, with the purchase of the RECs, you are making the New England grid cleaner with the energy you're purchasing, and that is tracked and independently verified.
Oh, okay, so it just goes into the general grid.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yes, sir.
In the unlikely event that market forces, or let's say the state level regulators reduce the price, we're not going to enjoy that benefit if it drops. So if the overall price of the product drops for the next 15 months. And the second part of the question is, what guarantee do we have contractual with you under this agreement that this 15-month term could be reduced or enlarged for your purposes to affect how it helps us?
Yeah,
Yes, the question is, if the rates go down, how are we still going to be helped by that? If they do, by the DPW or somebody says to do it. And the second part of the question is, if let's see if I can get it out clearer. Did you understand what I said?
I think so.
In other words,
Yeah.
if what is to guarantee us at this interval for renewal every 15 months to reestablish the rate we pay? Where is that going to be put in stone somewhere that the interval will not get longer or shorter? And that's it.
Okay, I see. Yes, yes.
Thank you.
So I'm going to address that second question first. The contract term is 15 months. When it comes time to renew, closer to that November 2026 meter read date, the competitive bidding process would occur for a new contract, and that contract term length might look different than 15 months. It could be longer. And in terms of if, were you saying for the renewable energy requirements, if that goes down?
Just across the board, electricity rates go down by some process.
Okay.
Either the market in general or DPW,
Yeah.
state level regulators reduce them.
Okay, absolutely. So you're talking about like the electricity supply rates if those go down. Like I said, we cannot guarantee savings in any 6-month period. There might be a 6-month period in this contract term where Eversource rates are lower than this program rate, depending on what supply product you're on. But honestly, I thank you for asking this question. I really enjoy being able to speak to like why the stability is so important. I think we've seen it a lot in recent years. Our electricity market is incredibly volatile. We saw it during the COVID-19 pandemic, and we saw it again when Russia invaded Ukraine. The electricity market, prices spiked. And Eversource supply customers did end up paying a lot more in these times for their supply rates because Eversource doesn't have an option of when they can procure their electricity. There is a set date for Eversource. So when they show up to procure their electricity, if the prices are high, they have no option but to go with that rate. Whereas aggregation programs like this, I mean, we sit down, we have like vetted suppliers, and if there isn't an offer on the table that the town of Longmeadow thinks is good enough for this program, they don't have to sign anything. Town of Longmeadow could walk away and try again later if they wanted. And Good Energy, as a consultant, we are experts in kind of monitoring this market and making sure that we're talking to very vetted suppliers. So long story short, we cannot guarantee savings in any 6-month period, but I do value the stability of this program, and that's what the town of Longmeadow is really hoping to give you is the option for stability because this program is completely optional. Yes.
I just wanted to answer his question. If there should be something happen that 5 months from now, Eversource's rates drop dramatically, opt out of this program.
Yeah.
That's all I can tell you. Just get out of it and go back to Eversource because it will be cheaper.
For no penalty fees.
That should automatically happen within that concept itself.
It does not automatically happen, but you have the option.
Okay, yes, sir. Okay. Yeah.
I called the Department of Public Utilities, asked them questions, and they directed me to a website called EnergySwitchA.gov.
Yes.
And I found it interesting that this company isn't even on it. And there are other companies on it that charge less than what this plan is. So
Yeah.
why are we doing business with them? And then lastly, you may not want to, but maybe you can explain to folks, as I found out, what a supply block is.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, there were a few questions wrapped up in there. I'm going to answer the first two, and then, sorry. That would be great. Yeah, and then I think we'll have a town representative speak to your first question. So Energy Switch. Energy Switch is a website where you can go on and shop for your different electricity suppliers. The vast majority of those that you're going to see on there are those independent one-on-one third-party contracts that I reviewed on this slide. Our aggregation program will appear on Energy Switch once it has launched. This is something that Good Energy, we have tried to work with Energy Switch on. We would love to have it available on the website before launch, but Energy Switch current policy is they don't put an aggregation program price on until it's officially launched, so you should see that on Energy Switch come August.
So why isn't Direct Energy on it now? Not the Longmeadow Direct Energy, but Direct Energy as a supplier to anybody else.
You know, I wouldn't be able to speak to that. You would probably have to call Direct Energy about, you know, their independent third-party contracts. But if you have any further questions about this, like, I would be happy to give you my contact number and follow up with you directly. I do have an Energy Switch contact that I could reach out to, so we could talk after this.
I'm just curious, that they found it unusual to work business with somebody that's not on this official website, and there are others on it that charge less.
Yeah, no, and absolutely. And if you want to opt out of this program and shop around, you absolutely can. I mean, truly, this program is certainly meant for people who don't shop around as much. If you want to go on to Energy Switch, opt out of this program and sign an independent third-party contract, please do. I've kind of outlined what some of those consumer protections or lack of can look like, and so that's something that you can know to ask about if you're in contact with the third-party supplier as well. And did I answer your last two questions there? Oh, yes, thank you. There is a thing called a supply block. This is something that you would have to call Eversource to put on your account. A supply block essentially means that no changes will be made to your account without your direct approval. So if you already have a supply block on your account, which you'll know if you have one or not because you have to call to set it up, you will not be automatically enrolled into the program, even if you're on Eversource basic service. Okay, we will get to your guys' questions in 1 second. We are going to answer the third question.
I just want to ask one question about solar panels.
Okay.
If you have solar panels, how does this work?
Yeah. Solar works seamlessly with this program. If you have solar panels installed, net metering is going to remain exactly the same. Nothing changes other than when you pull electricity from the grid because you haven't generated enough to cover your usage. Then your rate, when you pull from the grid, that supply rate will be the program's rather than Eversource's. If you have any credits built up, you're going to keep your credits. It all remains the same. And then if you want to...
So the first part, that first part of your question was related to what the town is getting out of this. And so I'm going to address that first, but I'm also going to kick it to someone else here in the audience.
Not particularly what they're getting at, I don't mean to insinuate anything, I'm just wondering why they thought it was their business to get involved at all, or what the incentive was.
Sure. So just so it's clear, the town does not get anything out of this. There's no financial gain for the town government. We just are able to administer it and offer something that we think can be a savings and or help you meet your own personal sustainability goals. In terms of why we wanted to do this, I am going to call on our former select board member, Mark Gold, who's here in the room. As you heard Courtney say earlier, with the Russia invasion of Ukraine 2 years ago, that's when Mark and I really started talking about this. That's how long it took us to get to this point, because we were fielding calls from residents about the increase in electricity costs that you were all experiencing, and many of us felt helpless in that. And so, Mark, if you wouldn't mind being put on the spot to speak a little bit on why you brought it forward.
I brought it forward.
Mark, would you be able to come here for the microphone? Sorry.
Folks on Zoom cannot hear comments from the audience unless they're at the mic, so thank you for asking that.
Thanks, Lynn. The reason we brought this forward, Lynn and I brought this forward, is because it's an opportunity and a benefit for the residents of Longmeadow. As she said, the town gets nothing out of it. It costs them nothing, but they get no benefit out of it. It's an opportunity for people in town to save money on their electric bill. When we first heard about it, the town that strikes me is the town of Reading, who signed a contract with a long-term supply municipal aggregation 3 months before Russia invaded Ukraine. And when everybody's electricity rates spiked, they sat there fixed at a very, very low rate. And the question we had in the back about why are some of these rates different on the website that you go to, the answer is the rates depend upon when you sign up for the program. You know, very honestly, we were hoping to get a 24 or 36 month fixed rate for the town of Longmeadow. But when we went out to get the bids, those prices were too high and weren't going to save us money, or certainly wouldn't save us money immediately. And so we opted for this lower duration contract so that you would save money immediately, knowing that the track record of a program like this is it has always been, at least what we call Longmeadow Basic, which is the equivalent to Eversource, has always been lower than what Eversource can supply.
Okay, thank you all. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Would you mind coming to the microphone? Thank you so much.
You said you can opt out of the program at any time.
Yes.
Can you also switch to different options in the program at any time?
Yes, you can switch to a different electricity product at any time. The caveat that I give people is it might take 1 to 2 billing cycles to see that change reflected on your bill. Just depends on when your meter read is and how fast the utility accepts your change request. But yes, you are free to opt in, opt out, change electricity products at any time on this program, no fees involved.
Is there a limit to how many times you could change options within that period of this contract?
No, although it'll keep you busy, I think. But no, there is no
Okay.
limit. Yeah. Yes, sir. This is a town-run program. The question was, is the town involved?
Let me answer that question. The town, several years ago, purchased what's called power purchase agreements with, in fact, at a much lower rate for a longer duration period of time. So while those power purchase agreements are in effect, the town's getting a much lower rate than these will be. My assumption is the next time those come up for renewal, the town would certainly look at this as an alternative. But at this point, the town's got unfortunately, a better deal than we can get. But they're buying an awful lot for a longer period of time.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Just to clarify, there's generation and transmission, right? When you both supply, that's
I see what you're asking. That would be more like delivery. There's 2 sides to your bill. The delivery portion and the supply portion. You do not have an option on who delivers your electricity because Eversource owns those physical poles and wires. But the state of Massachusetts wanted to make sure that you then had the option to choose who your supplier is, since you don't have an option on who delivers it.
the other thing was, what is, I don't know, when does Eversource tend to have the highest rate?
The question was, when does Eversource tend to have its highest rates, the summer or the winter? The answer to that is the summer, but they actually have shifted when those 6-month periods are from the past, so to try to make those time periods a little more equitable, because in the past, definitely in the winter, rates were lower due to lower temperatures. Okay. Yes, sir. Would you mind coming to the microphone? Thank you so much.
My name is Kurt Friedman. I'm a professional engineer, certified energy manager, and certified energy auditor, and I've been a professor of energy management at Western New England University for 22 years. In all fairness to you, and also in fairness to the previous speaker who's been dedicated so hard to helping improve our rates, The reality is, if you look at your rates, and instead of subscribing to a fixed rate, you subscribe to a variable rate, and you heat your home with either gas, oil, or propane, and you have significant air conditioning or you run a pool pump in the summertime, this program will cost you significantly more, about 5 to 15% more on an annual basis. So it's very, very dependent on your seasonal variation of use. Yes, electricity gets very expensive January, February, and March. The rest of the year with Eversource, with a variable rate, it's significantly less than this rate. In all fairness to the town, I would, and this was never presented in the folder that was sent to everyone, I would ask that the Board of Selectmen hold off on this program for 30 to 60 days. I would be happy to volunteer my professional time and inform the residents of which rate is better for them. And it's really a function of what your seasonal variation of use is, the ratio of summertime, spring to fall power consumption, and winter consumption. That's what determines it. And in order for our residents to make a decision from a position of information, I would ask that our Board of Selectmen allow me to present what the true situation is to our residents. Some residents benefit from this program, but many will not. And it's a very difficult formula for the layperson to understand. Let me have the opportunity to instruct this big classroom like I do with the students so that our community can mutually benefit. Thank you.
Okay, I am going to bring the discussion back here.
They're actually very competitive much of the year.
And if anybody has any questions about heat pumps or anything like that, please feel free to contact us as well. I, again, am on the other end of that phone number. So, next question. Yes, sir. Oh, sorry.
So let me just first state, I support the municipal aggregation program. It's very advantageous in terms of rates, and we will know further probably in February. You talked about seasonality of electric rates. It all depends on where natural gas prices are, because 55% of our energy is natural gas. So I'm very supportive of it. I also have been in the energy industry in 5 continents for 40-something years. There's major benefits here, but the big benefit is, as mentioned earlier, you can opt out every month. So if Eversource is ever lower, just opt out. It's plain and simple. You don't have to do a big study. You don't have to wait. Just opt out. It's plain and simple. Now, my question is, on the
Let's listen to his question, please.
On the
Thank you.
renewables, though, I do have a question.
Yes.
So the New England power grid is 42% renewable. In fact, yesterday, because of peak demand, we don't get hydro from Quebec anymore because of the little trade problems. Only 25% of the grid was renewables. So when you talked about renewable energy certificates, we're really not going to change the generation in the grid. The grid is still going to be 42% renewable. It's just that if someone wants to, they can pay a little bit more, but it's really not going to change the electricity in the grid. Over time, it might, in terms of demand, new solar, new hydro, but it's not going to change the kilowatts coming into Longmeadow's houses, like somebody said. There's no differentiation between mine at basic and the other pieces. Would that be correct?
I certainly believe that the 10%, the extra renewable energy added, what it does do is increase the demand and then therefore the supply over time, as you said, yes. Right. And you are purchasing the RECs, the renewable energy certificates of this renewable sources that have already been generated.
And in essence, it greens up the non-renewables. And one other thing real quick. So Direct Energy, the supplier, someone had a question on that. They are rock solid. They are a $29.5 billion company. You picked, through an RFP, a very good company. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. More questions? Yes, sir. Could you come to the microphone? Thank you. And I'll call on you next, sir.
Do energy prices or the cost of electricity vary a great deal between different areas of the country? And could a resident purchase his or her electricity from, let's say, Florida or some hydroelectric state that has lower rates?
Yeah, I would be happy to discuss that more with you after this. Again, it's a pretty in the weeds question, but yes, there are different rates in different regions of the country, and I do believe that there is a possibility for you to buy RECs from Texas. I know I would have to talk to one of my colleagues to get a little more information on that. But the benefit of these and the reason that the state of Massachusetts created the standard of MA Class 1 is because of how it's local and wanting to kind of drive that greener energy in the local area.
Oh, okay. Because I noticed that, and I live in another state too. In Florida, my electricity costs are very, very low. It's hard to believe how cheap it is. And
yeah, they certainly cost different in different regions of the country, I can say. Okay, I said you could ask your question. Thank you.
I'm wondering if you could assume a typical Longmeadow household and give me an idea roughly how much more or less my bill would be under the 3 programs being offered here compared to the current Eversource bill.
Oh, this is very cool. Well, I will say we have a really handy tool for you here. Let me grab this 1 second. If you give me just 1 second, I can show you. We have an online calculator for anybody who is interested in kind of testing out the difference in prices. Excuse me, let me find my mouse. Let's say you're a household who uses, 350 kilowatt hours a month on average, then you could look at the difference between prices of the program options and Eversource options here. This is on the Longmeadow Community Electricity website. If you want to do a comparison like that, I would really recommend that you take the average of what your own bills are to kind of consider what that might be. Yes.
I had a question regarding, since this is a town thing and you're pooling people's, what if more people opt out than opt in? What happens with the whole program because of that year to year?
The program keeps running if the majority of residents were to opt out. I will say in terms of the renewal of the next bid, the town's bargaining power perhaps wouldn't be as solid because of that, but I will say we have never seen that occur. The vast majority accounts on all of the municipal aggregation programs we work with stay on the default product, and I would say usually anywhere from 6 to 10%. I could get more accurate numbers from you, but a much lower amount of residents in these towns tend to opt out or opt into the basic product. Sorry, that's what I meant to say.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I'm so sorry.
So our bargaining could go down if not enough people end up. So what is the town projecting that people would opt in? They must have some number in mind in order to get this bargaining to start.
We won't really have that kind of data until much closer to launch, but I would be happy to leave you my contact number and we could...
well, I think we have it there.
Yes, you do. Yeah. And I'm happy to, talk with you about anything else after this. Yep. Thank you. Hi, yes. Yeah.
Direct Energy has no fees to opt in and out. Does Eversource have any fees that they charge?
Eversource does not have any fees to opt in or out. The question was, does Eversource have penalty fees? It does not. That is a third-party independent contract phenomena. Yes, sir.
I'll come up to the
Thank you. We appreciate that.
microphone that doesn't really do anything. All right, I'm here and I'm looking at my electric bill. We've been talking about supply rates.
Yes.
My delivery rate is twice what my supply cost is. Who determines that? Does that change, and what is it related to?
Yes, that is Eversource. So Eversource is always going to manage the delivery side of your bill. This program does not affect the delivery side of things. Those rates do change, and you would really have to talk to Eversource about more details in terms of the delivery side of your bill.
So you can't tell me what that is determined by.
It's on the back, A, and B, it's the Department of Public Utilities, which is, electricity is highly regulated here in this state, as people must know, right? And so everything you've heard today from, why is it required that we're in and we have to opt out? Talk to the Department of Public Utilities, state regulations. Why is it this, why? So the delivery is set, they have hearings at the Department of Public Utilities, Eversource gets their delivery rates approved, and that's what it is. So the answer is, we control what we can control. We can only work on that small supply part, and everything else is state regulated.
But the question still stands. What is that related
If
to?
you flip it over, and you're at the bottom of your electric bill, it has a whole list of 10 or 12 different line items of 2 cents for this and 14 hundredths for that and whatever. It's got them all there. Everything from, energy audits that they do of houses to automobile, electric automobile recharging. There's all kinds of stuff.
That still doesn't answer that
Well,
question.
if we wouldn't mind quieting down just a little bit, unfortunately, we are not involved in those line items at all. I don't know the details, but if you want to give me your contact information, I could talk to my colleagues and see if they have any insights and get back to you.
The gentleman like this question to answer, I can answer. The answer is, you have two parts to your bill. Supply.
Right.
Company provides supply. But the transmission, or we call it wires and poles fees.
Right.
It's the amortized cost of the phone poles, the wires, the maintenance of those wires. Basically, it's the hardware that provides electricity from the power plant to your door.
Of course.
That's what it is. And these rates are carefully regulated by the Department of Public Utility Commission, and they change based on what investments utility companies make in their infrastructure.
Well, that does not answer the question.
Why is one more than the other?
No. Is that a percentage of something? I mean, here, my rate says,
Think about it, if you have your house,
Yeah,
you're looking at the average cost of painting and new roofs and fixing the foundation and patching the driveway. Well, the electric company does the same thing with the wires and poles. And whatever that amount is then presented in your bill. And there
All
might be
right.
a somewhat different rate for residential versus commercial versus industrial.
So I can assure you, I really want to take your questions very seriously. I would
Well,
love to talk with you more about this
here is
after
the question.
the meeting.
My delivery charge is $61.26. Is everyone else's charge the same?
It's variable based on the amount of units used.
Yeah, it's variable for each electricity bill based on the amount of electricity you use.
It's based on how many kilowatt hours you use?
Yeah, so
Or what?
I'm gonna redirect us back here because the delivery has nothing to do with the supply and the municipal aggregation program. Courtney can answer your questions separately after this offline. We do have some other questions here that I want to make sure we have time to get to.
All right.
And we have over 70 people on Zoom that have questions as well. So, thank you.
Is there any way, I'm sorry to ask this, would you mind coming to repeat your question to the microphone for recording purposes? Yeah, go right ahead.
What Springfield is getting is called time of day metering. It's totally separate from municipal aggregation. They happen to be doing it at the same time. And in fact, if those of you who may have seen what you put in your bills, eventually Eversource is going to bring that to Longmeadow.
Getting new meters.
Right, and they're going to do that so that they can bill you based on, it's a summer day, it's hot, and we want to bill you more at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But that has nothing to do with municipal aggregation. If Eversource puts in new meters that do time of day, that are smart meters, that whatever it is, that's between Eversource and Eversource and has nothing to do with this program. This program does not require new meters, and you will not get new meters as a result of this program. You may get new meters because Eversource wants to make more money, but not because of this program.
Yes. So the question was how many communities are using this direct energy type of program. This is a municipal aggregation program in Massachusetts. Over 200 communities are. Oh, with this particular supplier, I do not know how many direct energy specifically works with at this current moment. I can say that we have worked with direct energy and other communities. Well over a dozen, and they held their locked-in prices throughout very volatile times, such as COVID-19 or when Russia invaded Ukraine. No, we do. In that direct energy, their municipal aggregation department, Good Energy has worked with them with over a dozen other communities, and they have great track records. We only actually work with 3 to 5 suppliers because we have such high standards for people's capacity and track record. It does take a lot to be able to promise this type of thing to the amount of accounts that are within a town, like the town of Longmeadow. And Direct Energy is one of the suppliers that we've worked with on municipal aggregation who has shown that they are capable of handling this kind of load.
Are there any conditions where Direct Energy can add on a surcharge?
The question was, are there any conditions where Good Energy or Direct Energy could add on a surcharge? The answer is no, not in these 15 months. Your supply rate is locked in here. So that will not change. These rates will not change in these 15 months. Yes?
So, Mr. Gold's piece about, putting smart meters on,
Yes.
would that be considered a delivery charge? That would impact everybody regardless of what supply costs they're doing.
Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that.
The question for the people online was, will these smart meters affect pricing on the delivery side of things? The answer is yes, and this program is involved in the supply side of things. So we are not involved in that.
If we adopt time of use metering, I know about time of use metering, because I intervened in Boston to establish time of use metering in Western Massachusetts back in 1998 and 1999. And if people, for example, want to charge up their car during off-peak hours to save on electricity, that's only available with the time of use meter. Now the large commercial and industrial customers have had this for many years. It hasn't happened residential yet, but it will for these very reasons. Or you want to run your heat pumps during off-peak hours and then run your gas heat during on-peak hours to save money.
I do just want to bring us back because that is not a part of this program, just because this program is very much in the supply portion of things in terms of your supply rate.
This program offers fixed rates. They don't offer off-peak discounted rates.
Yes, that is very true.
Changes in cost seasonally. Electricity is much less in the summertime.
Yeah, we offer fixed rates for 15 months on this contract. Are there any other questions from our in-person audience? So August is when this program launches. So everybody has a different meter read. The majority of accounts in Longmeadow, their meter read is August 19th. So that will be the date for most people. But it's just in August on your meter read. So therefore, you're going to see the change reflected in your bill and September, because your September bill that arrives covers that August meter read. Oh, yes. The deadline to opt out before the program begins is July 19th.
Does everybody has the ideas how you're going to do it? I don't.
I would be happy to help you after this with any way of opting out if you'd like. You can do it online, or you can do it over the phone, or if you have a physical card, you could mail that in.
On the Longmeadow Community Electricity.com.
Yes, and my phone number is there at the bottom if you want to write that down, but if you're here when we're done, I'll make sure to find you. And sir, I believe you had a question? Thank you.
I have two kind of questions that came to me as soon as I received that letter. First question is, why Eversource is not presented here, because they are interested part of this conversation, should be for us, because they are, I have contract with them today, so I would like to hear their opinion about this proposition. And second, what gives town rights to make a decision without asking me if I, for some reason, do not anyhow answer for this letter?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, of course. So I understand this is definitely a common question that we receive. Oh, fair enough. I will repeat the question, which is how is this an opt-out program? How could that be allowed in a sense? It's because it's Massachusetts state law. So the law structures these aggregation programs as having to be opt-out. So the town of Longmeadow, when they decided that they were going to run this program for the benefit of Longmeadow customers, or residents and business customers, having more options for their supply rates, they had to make it an opt-out program. It is in Massachusetts state law. And if you have more questions on that, I have like the link to direct you to that. Yeah. It's state law. This is a restructured electricity market that allows towns and cities to set up this kind of program. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. One thing I do want to note is that this was passed through a town meeting back in 2023. So the town didn't make this decision on its own. It went through during a town meeting. And in terms of an Eversource representative, I have contact information for Eversource. If you would like to reach out to them or anything like that, you're more than welcome to. I will say Eversource is not necessarily invested on the supply side of things on your bill, because they have a monopoly on the delivery. Massachusetts state law was kind of saying, well, since you have a monopoly on the delivery because you own these physical poles and wires, we want to make sure that electricity customers do have an option on their supply. And so the Eversource basic service rate that is set up, that is a structure through the Massachusetts state government. Yeah. Okay, any other questions for our in-person audience?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Because I'm unclear as to the layers that I'm talking about here. It's a little hard to absorb.
Totally
First of all,
understandable.
what is the nature of your relationship to the entity we're talking about, and why didn't they come on their own and speak for themselves?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for your help.
I just want to answer that. The question was, what's the relationship of Good Energy to this program? Okay, that's a good question. Good Energy is the consultant to the town of Longmeadow. Good Energy makes money on every kilowatt hour we use.
Correct.
No, Good Energy makes money on every kilowatt hour used by the town of Longmeadow. It's in their best interest for most people in town to sign up, okay? Otherwise, it would cost the town money. Somebody's got to make money on this, and it's not us. So they make a fraction of a cent per kilowatt hour. The more of us who sign up, the more money they make. The nicer Courtney is, the more they have for websites and all that other stuff. So that's, we chose Good Energy out of a choice of several different, what's called consolidators or companies that we could deal with. And Good Energy then went out and they solicited electricity from multiple suppliers. They presented to us multiple bids they got. One of them was Direct Energy. Theirs was the best price. But we could have rejected Good Energy and gone with, I know Constellation was another one, and there were others as well. But we were looking for the best price for the residents of Longmeadow. So the only thing Good Energy has in this is the more of us who sign up, the more money, and the more electricity we buy, the more money they make. That's good because when it comes time to renew, they're going to also try to get the best deal because the more people who opt out, the less money they make. Okay? Does that answer your questions?
I'd love to add to that I believe the company that I work for, Good Energy, I believe we make 1/10 of a cent off of kilowatt hours used, just to specify that how that payment works. So yes, overarchingly, the town is not paying us for our consultancy. Yes.
We have three choices. Basic, standard, plus.
Yes.
Why did you pick the standard one as an automatic, which is more money than the basic?
Okay, go for it.
I should answer that because
Will you repeat the question?
yeah, the question is, of the three choices that we have, there's basic, standard, and plus, and why did we choose standard, which is a little bit more renewable? The select board wanted to encourage the use of more renewables, but we included basic so that people who want basic can get basic and save even more money. But you'll notice that even the standard is lower priced than Eversource. That was a requirement, if you will, when Lynn and I talked to Good Energy, because the first time that came around, standard wasn't less money than Eversource. Said nobody's going to sign up for it. Go renegotiate the contracts. They had to come back with something less than 24 months. But I think that answers the question. Is it was a choice by the select board to try to encourage more use, but leaving residents the opportunity to stick with the Longmeadow Basic. You have to do one extra step to opt down, but you'll save the maximum amount of money.
Unfortunately, a lot of the people are not going to read the paper that the weekly spent, so they're going to start paying more. By the way, I think the current bill with Eversource,
Excuse me.
you're more money than Eversource.
Well, that's only through August. Ours, that rate for Eversource. That's one of the issues that I have with people who say this isn't a good deal. You have to compare apples and apples. If we had said to Good Energy, what price can we get for June, July, and August of 2025, the price would have probably come in lower than Eversource's is now. But we're looking in the future. And so the price that they're projecting for us for the next 15 months, beginning with the August billing period, is it's frankly the same large electric suppliers who Eversource is bidding at, but they know they're going to give us a better price. So the answer is, yeah, if you look at today's, and I think I have the numbers, 11.4 cents or something like that today, but it's going to go, yeah, it's 11.79, but it's going to go up. Eversource by law must rebid their supply rates every 6 months. Used to be January 1st and July 1st, but it was killing people in the winter and the summer. And so the state shifted that to February 1st and August 1st. So August 1st, Eversource must, by state law, bid their supply again, and they will.
They already have, and
Yeah.
that upcoming rate is 13.493 cents per kilowatt hour. The big difference on this program versus the ability of the utility of Eversource is that they don't have a choice in when they procure their electricity. There is a set date. And if the market is bad, they just get a bad rate. Whereas Here on the aggregation program, like Mark said, originally when we were originally going to go to bid, there was a big fluctuation in the market, a new thing coming up, and the suppliers were unsure how it was going to meet, and we were seeing that the suppliers were going to be giving unfavorable numbers. So we put a pause on the bid until we saw the market look better, and then we went to bid. So basically what I'm saying is in these municipal aggregation programs, we have the power of choice, the power of looking at the market and picking competitive rates on lower portions of the market when things are more favorable. Eversource does not have that opportunity. Eversource has a date they have to procure their electricity, and if prices are then high because of the date, that's that. They don't have a choice. So yes, that next rate starts August 1st. Thank you, we appreciate that. Okay, any other questions from our in-person audience? Yes, would you mind coming to the microphone? Thank you.
If I decide I want to go with the direct energy basic or standard for now and I decide it doesn't work for me, what are the steps for opting out at a later date and going back to Eversource?
Yes.
That's one question. And if I choose to go between direct energy's 3 plans, what rates do I get? The ones that are on the form that we received, or do I get rates which are in the market at that time?
You will get the rates of the program rates, which I am going to bring back up onto the screen. These are the 3 electricity products available through the program. Their rates are going to stay the same throughout these whole 15-month period. So you will be offered these rates when you join the program. If you leave the program and come back, the supplier technically reserves the right to give you a market rate that would then stay stable, but you would have to first accept it, and I don't believe that's going to be applicable in that we only see that really happen to large industrial accounts, not small businesses, and certainly not residential accounts. In terms of how do you switch electricity products or how do you opt out, there are 2 ways to do this. There is a form online to either switch electricity products or to opt out of the program. Those are 2 different forms. You can find that at longmeadowcommunityelectricity.com, or you can call the electricity supplier, Direct Energy. They hold all of the account information for participants, so they can make those changes for you or put through those change requests over the phone. And that includes changing electricity products or opting out of the program altogether.
Final, and I thank you for your candor.
Yes.
Final question is, if there are major hiccups or burps in the market, what protection does your firm and what protection do we have that guarantees that thing is going to last for 15 months, yes or no?
Yes,
what caveats do they have to change the content of what you just said all night?
Yeah, so they don't have caveats to change anything unless there is a Massachusetts state law change, which is not occurring in any way. And in terms of the market, these prices will be upheld during volatile times because we only go with huge suppliers who are very large. That was mentioned earlier. And they're highly vetted in that they have huge capacities for not just a town like Longmeadow, but like many towns and cities like Longmeadow, because of their size and because of their strong track record. And they have proven themselves, Direct Energy has proven themselves through times of volatile markets, such as when Russia invaded Ukraine, which kind of started the impetus of this program.
Thank you.
Okay, any last questions from our in-person audience? Yes.
If we've opted out and we want to go back in, how do we get notified by the company that we are indeed in?
Yeah, I can walk you through that process. So the question for our online viewers is, if you opt out and decide you want to opt back in later, how do you know you are opted back in? So the first step is to either fill out the form online and hit submit, or call the electricity supplier and do it over the phone. What then happens is that change request is sent to the utility, and at some point the utility accepts that request. At this point in time, the supplier will let you know that it has received your confirmation request, and you can expect to see the change on the supply portion of your bill in 1 to 2 billing cycles. If your account was rejected, you would not see that change next to supplier, and I would love it if you would call me. I have my phone number up here at the bottom. If you were to call Good Energy, I can look into your account for you to see what the reason for that rejection was. Oh, if you send in your opt-out request before July 19th, you will not be put on the program automatically. You would have to opt in. That answer your question? Okay. Yes, you could call. Absolutely. Okay, any other questions from our in-person audience? If not, we're going to move to our virtual audience. Okay, thank you guys. Yes, absolutely. Okay, for our virtual audience, I'm wondering if you can raise your hand to ask your questions. Lynn here is going to field your questions one at a time for me, and I will answer. Absolutely. We will repeat the question out loud.
All right, I see someone with the name of C. Berger. If you want to go ahead and ask your question.
My question relates to commercial rates. So commercial rates are a couple cents less than the residential rate. I mean, am I to assume that this has nothing to do with commercial accounts?
Okay, the question was, this program, does it have anything to do with commercial accounts? The commercial rates are set a little lower than the residential rates. The answer is this program is available to commercial customers. If you are a large industrial account, I believe that your rates change every 3 months rather than every 6 months. But yes, these rates are available to you.
But if I sign up for my commercial bill property with this, I'm going to be charged the rate that's listed on this graph.
Yes, depending on which electricity product you choose, yes, you would be charged that rate. But same as everybody else, this program is completely optional. You can absolutely opt out at any time, no penalty fees as a commercial account as well.
The next person is Roberta, and we'll ask you to unmute, please.
Yes, I have a question. If you're on the Eversource budget plan, how does that work with opting in?
Yes, the question was, if you're on Eversource budget plan, how does that work with opting in? The Eversource budget plan works seamlessly with this program. You can join this program and you will still have that discount. It is applied to your bill as a whole, so it still applies.
Thank you.
Of course.
Any other questions online? Please raise your hand. Is Paul, you have a question?
Paul.
Go ahead.
Could you put the copy of the bill on the screen?
Yes.
I'm looking at this trying to find a reference number.
Yep, 1 second.
Oh, Paul, did you say you were looking for the reference number on your electricity bill?
Yep.
Okay, it is not currently highlighted, but I can direct you to it based on the screenshot that is up. I'm just pulling it up for everyone else as well. It is the service reference number can be found under the blue box on the left. So the blue box on the left says service address. This example is showing any street. There are 2 rows underneath that. That green row that is showing what number? 99097 under current read, there is a white bar. That white bar, the space there says service reference. The example that's shown on the screen is all zeros, but that's where you can locate your service reference number. I do believe we also have a sample bill on the website. If you were to go to resources, you'll find a sample Eversource bill, and I believe that the service reference number is circled in red on that resource. Of course. Do we have any other questions from our virtual participants?
Sorry, one more from me.
Okay, yes.
Again, this is regarding the commercial. So if we do nothing about, we don't opt out or do anything, do we just stay with the first option, my option, or will it automatically put us into the standard?
That depends on who your current supplier is. Did you receive a letter in perhaps your P.O. box or mailbox for your?
I did. I'm not sure if it's regarding my residence or my business, but
Okay.
it is, our supplier is Eversource.
Okay, if your supplier is Eversource, then you should be up for automatic enrollment. I would definitely encourage anybody who knows what outcome they want. If you have any confusion, it is not a hard process to fill out the form online to either opt out, change products, if you know what you want to do. And I think you're saying maybe stay on Eversource. I would recommend that you fill out an opt-out form. Of course.
Donna Roberts?
Hi,
Go ahead.
sorry if you didn't tell. So if I am opting in, but I don't want the plan that the town is already opting me into, and I want to switch to a different one, is the procedure to fill out the form on the website change?
Yes, the question was if I want to change from the Longmeadow standard default electricity product to a different program electricity product. There are two ways to do this. You could fill out the form online on longmeadowcommunityelectricity.com. There'll be a tab in the upper right that says enroll or change. That has the form to change electricity products or enroll altogether. And or you could call the electricity supplier, Direct Energy, on the phone. In that, you can find their number on the website as well in the Enroll or Change tab. Also various other spots on the website, but we have shared it through this presentation as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Of course.
I see Manny and Barbara.
Yes. My question may be redundant. I'm just asking to see if, how will this, between the delivery and the supply, affect my net billing on my solar panel and so forth?
Yes, great question. It was about how will the delivery and supply affect my solar panels. I will start by saying that there are two portions to your bill, delivery and supply. This program is only about the supply portion, but if you have solar panels, solar installation, it works seamlessly with the program. Net metering will remain the exact same, and the only thing that changes is when you don't produce enough, or if you don't generate enough electricity to cover your usage, when you pull from the grid, the supply rate will be the program's instead of Eversource's.
I got somebody strange in the middle. So is the net billing included the supply and the delivery, or is it only the supply?
This program is only about the supply portion of your bill, and it works seamlessly with solar installation.
So even with Eversource, I'm only getting the net billing on the supply side, not the delivery.
I am unsure about the specifics of that. If you want to reach out to us with the contact information that we left. I would love to ask my colleagues and get back to you. I don't know how your net metering and solar installation is in terms of delivery versus supply, but I can assure you that it works with this program, and this program only affects the supply portion of your electricity bill. Of course.
Yeah, yes, thank you. My church is a third-party supplier.
Okay.
Exists right now. So the process would be that we would not have to do anything in regards to the church.
Correct. If you would like to stay on your third-party supplier that you currently have, take no action. You are not eligible for automatic enrollment because you're on third-party supply. If you end up deciding you want to switch to the program later, you're more than welcome to. I just recommend you speak to your third-party supplier first to make sure you understand if you have any early termination fees.
So if that third party is on the bill as a supplier, we do not have to take any action.
Correct. To stay with that third-party supplier, yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm that. Thank
Of
you.
course.
Any other questions online?
Okay, well, thank you all so much for your time. This was a huge showing, and I am happy to stay behind and answer any individual questions if you have them, look at your bill if you have them. Thank you to our virtual audience for joining today. We appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.